I'm Ira Cross, and I'm that energetic teacher. So this video is about the cost of being honest and being vulnerable. So here are 3 costs that I have. Number 1, you have to fight fear. Number 2, you have to fight what seems like an actual weakness. Number 3, and here's a tough one for a lot of people, you'll probably be judged. Now, if you get past those 3 things that are the cost of vulnerability, then you get to some pretty cool stuff. Here are 3 things that I think that you'll get from vulnerability and being vulnerable and being honest. Number 1, freedom. You get a lot of freedom from being vulnerable and being open. You are free to make mistakes because people know that you'll own that and that'll be a part of who you are as a person. Not that you're a failure, but that you accept failure as a part of the process of whatever it is you're doing. Number 2, like I already said, ownership. You get to own whatever it is that you are taking part in. When you make mistakes, you can learn from those mistakes and truly take ownership of whatever that is. And the last thing, and I think this is the most important thing, growth. Without mistakes, without being vulnerable and being open, there is no growth. So this series is called That Energetic Teacher, right? So as a teacher, how am I vulnerable? It's a great question. So here are some ways that I'm vulnerable, that I myself, Mr. Cross, Ira Cross, is vulnerable. 1, I straight up tell my students I'm not perfect. And I maybe not always, I often joke that I say stuff like, hey, I'm pretty perfect, right? I don't make mistakes. And in that moment, my students know that that's the cue. Okay, Mr. Cross made a mistake, and that's cool because he's human. And I usually say something along the lines of like, am I being serious? Of course not. I make mistakes all the time. And they love that because it gives them a chance to see, all right, if he can make a mistake, then I can definitely make a mistake, and he's definitely going to be cool with it because he makes mistakes. Another way that I'm vulnerable as a teacher is that there are colleagues that come to me for help and advice and different things like that, and I also show them that I'm vulnerable as well. So I show them that I make mistakes. I show them that I'm not perfect. I show them that even though they're coming to me for advice about this thing, I give them an anecdote based on whatever they're asking me. So if a teacher is coming to me about classroom management, I tell them about here's how I messed up, here are the mistakes that I made, and here's why I do what I do now, whatever it is that they're asking specifically. Classroom management-wise, a lot of mistakes have been made. So kind of going a little bit more broad, I accept and own my mistakes, which I've kind of alluded to already and also kind of just straight up said. But I own my mistakes, and when I do that, it gives me the opportunity to grow. It gives me some leeway to make mistakes in the future. And when I do make those mistakes in the future, it's not as big of a deal as if I were to just allow people to assume that I'm perfect or allow people to assume that I think that I'm perfect. So I have leeway, and I also grow much more because once I make my mistake, I do my best to learn from whatever that mistake is and then grow and move forward from it. Without making those mistakes and without being vulnerable, then I can't grow. A quote that I want to share from a woman that I really have a lot of respect for, and she's done some great videos, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard of her, and if you haven't, please look up Brené Brown. Brené Brown said, if we want greater clarity in our purpose or deeper, more meaningful spiritual lives, vulnerability is the path. And again, that's by Brené Brown. Please look her up. She has wonderful material about vulnerability, and Daring Greatly is a great book, and I love that book. So something that I want to add to my videos that I think will just add a lot of character and flavor and make it more interactive is questions. And that was suggested by a colleague of mine that I have a lot of respect for, and she helps me to critique these videos and make them a lot better than they are, and definitely shout out to you for that. And I'm not shouting her out because I don't know if she wants a personal shout out. If she does, I've got you in the next one, no problems. But questions, I want to add in questions. So one question that I have as I read right now, being vulnerable. I'm reading, right? So one question that I have is, what scares you about being vulnerable? And that's such an honest and open question. What is it about vulnerability that scares you? The second question that I have, again, I'm gonna read, being vulnerable, because I don't have this all memorized, but what positive things can happen as a result of you being vulnerable and facing that vulnerability? If you like this video, please hit the like button, share it, spread it around. I want people to be more vulnerable because the more people that are vulnerable, the more people that are being genuine and real. And the last thing that I want to say, again, spread your positivity, Spread your energy, whatever that looks like. Spread your positivity, spread your energy, because this world needs more of what you have.